When I finally earned the promotion I'd worked toward for years, I thought my family would be proud. Instead, my mom twisted it into leverage. "Don't forget who raised you," she sneered, demanding I hand over a portion of my new salary. What started as guilt trips escalated into manipulation, public humiliation, and betrayal from the one person who was supposed to be my biggest supporter. But what my mom didn't realize was that she'd raised me into someone who knew how to fight back, and when I got my revenge, it was devastating. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a 29-year-old woman working as a financial analyst in Chicago. Numbers have always been my language, clean, precise, honest. People? Not so much. People lie, manipulate, and twist facts to suit themselves. I know this because I grew up watching my mom do exactly that. But that day, the day I got promoted, I thought maybe life was finally turning a corner. I still remember the sharp ping of the email notification while I sat at my desk, drowning in spreadsheets and stale office coffee. The subject line read, "Promotion decision, congratulations." My heart hammered so hard I had to check the screen twice to make sure it wasn't a mistake. After 5 grueling years of grinding, late nights, skipped vacations, and taking on projects no one else wanted, I was finally being rewarded. I was now the youngest senior analyst in the firm. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the city skyline through the office windows. The streets below were clogged with honking taxis and bundled-up pedestrians fighting the icy wind. But I barely felt the cold that seeped through the glass. For the first time in years, warmth bloomed inside me. This was my win. Not luck. Not charity. Not family connections. Just me, clawing my way up with grit. Of course, the first person I called was my mom. "Mom," I said, my voice breathless with joy, "I did it. I got promoted. Senior analyst. Biggest step of my career yet." There was a pause on the line. For a moment, I thought she was as shocked as I was. Then she said, flat and sharp, "Don't forget who raised you." I froze, the words slicing through my excitement. "What?" I asked, trying to laugh it off, waiting for her to join me. "You wouldn't be where you are if it weren't for me," she continued. "All those nights I stayed up, all the money I spent raising you. Don't act like this is just your success. You owe me." The air in my lungs turned to ice. I wanted her to be proud. To say she believed in me. To celebrate with me. Instead, she was already calculating what I owed her, like I was some investment she was cashing in on. "Mom, I'm not," I started, but she cut me off. "You better not forget me now that you're making money. Don't go running around acting like you're too good for your own mother." That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the walls. My promotion letter was still open on my laptop, but the joy was gone, smothered under a suffocating blanket of guilt and obligation. She'd turned my biggest victory into a debt I never agreed to. I didn't realize it then, but this was only the beginning. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. And my mother wasn't about to let go of hers without a fight. The first time she asked me for money, it wasn't framed as a request. It was presented as if it were my duty. 2 weeks after my promotion, my mom called me on a Sunday morning. I was still in my pajamas, sipping coffee, feeling the rare luxury of a slow weekend. My phone lit up with her name, and I hesitated. After that unsettling, "Don't forget who raised you" comment, every conversation with her felt like walking into a trap. But I answered. "Hi, Mom." "Rachel," she said, skipping any greeting, "your Aunt Linda's medical bills are piling up, and since you just got that big raise, I think it's time you started contributing." I nearly choked on my coffee. "My what?" I asked. "Your contribution," she repeated matter-of-factly. "You're making good money now. You can help with family expenses. I've done enough. It's your turn to give back." I rubbed my temple. "Mom, Aunt Linda has 3 kids of her own. Shouldn't they be?" "They don't make as much as you," she snapped. "Don't be selfish. Family comes first." Selfish. That word lodged itself like a thorn in my chest. She always knew how to wield guilt like a weapon, and she wielded it well. Mom, I tried to keep my voice steady, I worked really hard for this promotion. I have student loans. I'm still paying off my car. I don't exactly have piles of cash lying around. You always have an excuse, she said coldly. I gave up my life for you. Now I need help, and you're turning your back on me. Do you even hear yourself? Do you want your mother to suffer? It was like she'd flipped a switch inside me, draining every ounce of joy I had left from the promotion. Instead of feeling proud of myself, I felt cornered, like a bad daughter for even hesitating. And then came the dagger. If you don't help now, Rachel, don't come crying to me when you need me someday. Because I won't forget this. I sat there stunned, the weight of her words crushing me. She wasn't asking. She was blackmailing me with our relationship, holding it hostage unless I paid. Later that week, I sent her $500. Half my rent. I told myself it was a one-time thing. A peace offering. A way to buy some breathing room. But deep down, I already knew, once you give in to someone like my mother, they don't stop. They only demand more. And she did. Oh, she demanded far more than I could have ever imagined. The $500 I sent her should have been enough. It was more than generous, especially since it wasn't my responsibility. But for my mom, it was never about the money itself. It was about control, and once she saw I'd cracked, she pried that crack open until it felt like my entire life was splitting down the middle. The calls became routine. Twice a week. Sometimes more. Always with a new story, a new justification. Rachel, your cousin's tuition payment is late. You know how embarrassing that is for the family? We can't let people think we don't support our own. Rachel, the electricity bill went up this month. Things are hard. Don't make me beg you to step up. Rachel, I just need a little help with groceries. Do you want me starving while you sit in your fancy apartment drinking lattes? Every time, the accusations came laced with guilt. Every time, she painted me as the villain for even questioning her. And every time, I caved a little more, sending money, shrinking my own life to feed her endless hunger. But what really broke me wasn't just her voice. It was the chorus she assembled against me. At a family dinner one weekend, the first I'd agreed to attend since my promotion, I walked into my aunt's house, balancing a bottle of wine and a fake smile. The moment I stepped through the door, I felt the shift. Heads turned. Conversations dipped. And then my cousin Mark smirked at me and said loudly, "Oh look, it's the family ATM." Laughter rippled around the table. I froze, the words slamming into me harder than I expected. "Excuse me?" I asked, trying to laugh it off, though my stomach twisted. "Don't play dumb," Aunt Linda chimed in, piling food onto her plate. "Your mom told us how generous you've been since your promotion. Really, we should start calling you Saint Rachel, patron of freeloaders." The room erupted in chuckles. My cheeks burned hot. I looked at my mom, praying she'd defend me, say something to set the record straight. Instead, she leaned back in her chair, smug, and said, "Well, she owes us. She knows she does." In that moment, I realized she hadn't just been taking my money. She'd been rewriting the narrative, painting me as some spoiled daughter who finally learned to give back. To them, I wasn't Rachel, the woman who worked herself to the bone for her career. I was Rachel, the walking, talking, breathing bank account. I wanted to scream. To stand up and tell them the truth, that every dollar I gave her was ripped from me with guilt, shame, and emotional blackmail. But I didn't. Because if I did, I knew she'd twist it. She always twisted it. That night, lying in bed, my phone buzzed with a text from her. "Mom ***, you embarrassed me tonight. Next time, bring cash for Linda directly. Don't make me look bad again. ***. I stared at the glowing screen until my vision blurred. This wasn't love. This wasn't family. This was a trap. And every time I tried to climb out, my mother found a way to pull me back in. But what she didn't realize was that every cruel word, every public humiliation, every manipulation, it was all adding fuel. Fuel for the fire I was going to set. By the time spring rolled around, my life no longer felt like mine. Every dollar I earned was mentally pre-assigned before it even hit my account. Rent, loans, bills, and then her. Always her. But money wasn't the only thing she wanted. She wanted ownership of me. It started subtly: "Why don't you visit me more now that you're making money?" Or, "If you really loved me, you'd move closer to home so I'm not so lonely." Little digs, packaged as concern. Then it escalated. One morning on my way to work, I got a call that made my blood run cold. "Rachel," she said, voice brisk, "I need your company's HR email." I blinked, nearly dropping my coffee. "What? Why?" "Because I want to write them a letter about how hard you've worked and how proud I am. Maybe they'll give you another raise." I nearly choked. "Mom, absolutely not. That's insane. Don't you dare talk to me like that," she snapped. "You're ungrateful. I gave you life, and I will not be spoken to that way. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have that job at all." I felt my hands shaking around my phone. She had no idea how professional boundaries worked, or maybe she did, and just didn't care. She wanted to inject herself into every corner of my world, even the workplace I'd fought to carve out as mine. Later that week, I found out she'd been bragging to family friends that she was the reason I got promoted. According to her, she had trained me to be responsible, she pushed me to succeed, she never stopped believing in me. Never mind the years of criticism, the backhanded compliments, the way she told me I never measure up to other kids. In her rewritten version of history, she was the hero behind my every achievement. At work, I started to spiral. I couldn't focus. Every ping from my phone made my stomach twist, afraid it was her, demanding, accusing, inserting herself. My boss noticed. "You're distracted," he said during one meeting, his tone sharper than usual. "That's not like you." And he was right. I wasn't myself. I was becoming hollowed out, eaten alive by obligations that weren't mine to carry. Then came the straw that broke me. At another family gathering, this time for my cousin's birthday, I walked in and saw a cake on the table with words written in sloppy blue icing, "Thanks Rachel, our provider." Asterisk. Everyone laughed when I saw it. Phones came out. Pictures snapped. My mom grinned like the queen of some cruel court, basking in the mockery she orchestrated. I wanted to die right there. I wanted to scream, throw the cake across the room, run until I couldn't breathe. But instead, I stood frozen, smiling like a mannequin while the humiliation burned into my skin. That night, I sat in my car long after the party ended, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. For the first time, I didn't feel just trapped. I felt rage. Pure, unfiltered, nuclear rage. This wasn't just her pride anymore. This wasn't just her demands. This was war. And if she wanted a war, I was finally ready to fight back. I told myself I wouldn't go. I swore, after the cake incident, that I was done being their punching bag. But then came the text from my mother, sharp, commanding, impossible to ignore. "Mom ***, be at Aunt Linda's this Saturday. Don't embarrass me by skipping." Asterisk. It wasn't an invitation. It was an order. And like a fool, I obeyed. The house was buzzing when I arrived. Laughter spilled from the backyard, the smell of grilled food drifting into the warm summer air. I stood at the threshold for a moment, clutching a bottle of wine I'd picked up on the way, already wishing I'd turned around. Then I heard it. My name. Followed by laughter. "Rachel. Our golden goose," someone shouted. My stomach sank. I stepped outside to see a group of my cousins gathered around a picnic table. In the center was a giant poster board, plastered with a blown-up photo of me from LinkedIn, professional headshot, blazer and all, and beneath it, in bold red marker, "Family Banker." My face flushed so hot I thought I might pass out. "Come on, Rachel, give us your best financial advice." Mark jeered, raising his beer. How should we invest the money you keep handing out? The others howled with laughter. Phones were out again, recording, snapping photos. I knew those images would end up in some family group chat, recycled for years to come. I turned to my mom, desperate, my voice low and shaking. Did you know about this? Her smirk told me everything. Don't be so sensitive, she said, waving me off. They're just having fun. Besides, you should be proud. Not every daughter is successful enough to take care of her family. Take care of her family. The phrase twisted like a knife. I hadn't signed up for this role, she had written me into it without my consent. Something inside me snapped. Proud. I said, louder now, my voice trembling not with fear but with fury. You humiliate me in front of everyone, and I'm supposed to be proud? The laughter dimmed slightly, some heads turning toward us. My mom's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping to a venomous hiss. Don't you dare make a scene. Not here. Not in front of everyone. And that was it. The final straw. I stood tall, my hands shaking but steadying with every word. You've been using me, Mom. 4 months. For money, for status, for control. And I'm done. You hear me? I'm done. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone muttered, whoa. My mom's face went pale, then red with rage. How dare you speak to me that way, she spat, her voice shrill now, breaking through the silence. After everything I've done for you, you ungrateful little. But I didn't stay to hear the rest. I turned, dropped the bottle of wine onto the table with a heavy thud, and walked out. The night air felt electric as I got into my car, my hands trembling on the wheel. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one shrinking. I wasn't the one apologizing. I was the one leaving. But as freeing as it felt, the humiliation lingered. I knew the whispers would spread, the stories would twist, and my mom would cast me as the villain. That was fine. Because I wasn't planning to defend myself with words anymore. No, I was planning to destroy her with actions. And when I was finished, she'd never dare speak my name like that again. After the humiliation at Aunt Linda's, I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too violently to drive straight, my chest tight with fury and shame. Instead, I parked in a grocery store lot, staring at the buzzing neon lights until the sky turned black. That was when the numbness began to settle in. Not the kind of numbness that makes you weak, but the kind that carves you into something sharper. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was done. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment to a barrage of texts. Mom ***, you embarrassed me in front of everyone. I don't know how you can even show your face again. Asterisk. Mom ***, Linda said she felt so uncomfortable because of you. You ruined her party. Asterisk. Mom ***, you owe me an apology. And some money for groceries this week. Things are tight. Asterisk. Reading those messages was like watching someone dump gasoline onto a fire. She hadn't just twisted the story, she'd convinced herself of it. In her world, I wasn't the victim of public ridicule. I was the aggressor. That was when I realized something vital. With my mom, there was no winning by playing defense. No explanation, no rational argument, no act of generosity would ever change her. Because the game wasn't about fairness. It was about control. And if she wanted a war for control, I was finally ready to fight. I started small. I stopped answering her calls during work hours. When she sent long, guilt-laced paragraphs, I replied with a single word, *noted. Asterisk. She noticed immediately. Mom ***, why are you being so cold? Are you trying to punish me? After everything I've done? Asterisk. Me ***, I'm busy. Asterisk. Mom ***, you'd better not think you're too good for your own family now. Don't make me remind you what you owe me. Asterisk. But the more she tried to push, the calmer I became. Because behind the scenes, I had begun something she couldn't see, something she'd never expect. I started keeping records. Every bank transfer. Every Venmo payment. Every text where she demanded money or berated me into giving it. I printed them out, slipped them into a binder, and labeled it evidence. For the first time in months, I felt steady. Because now, I wasn't just her daughter. I was her reckoning. The real breaking point came 2 weeks later. I was at work, in the middle of preparing a quarterly report, when my phone buzzed nonstop. 10 messages. 15. Then a call. Another call. I finally stepped outside, gripping my phone, my gut already sour. "Rachel," she said the second I answered, her tone frantic, "I need $2,000. Right now." My stomach dropped. What? Why? Because I put down a deposit for new furniture, and they won't hold it unless I pay in full today. Don't make me lose it. I blinked, stunned. Are you serious? Furniture? You're calling me at work for that? Don't you raise your voice at me, she shrieked. You're making good money now, and I deserve to live comfortably after raising you. Don't act like I'm asking for much. That was it. The moment everything crystallized. She didn't want help. She didn't even want respect. She wanted ownership of my money, my time, my existence. No, I said, my voice steady for the first time in a long time. Silence. What did you just say? I said no, I repeated. No more money. Not for furniture. Not for groceries. Not for anything. You don't own me, Mom. The screech that came through the phone was something feral, not human. Ungrateful. You're a traitor to your own blood. If you think you can turn your back on me, you'll regret it. I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but this time, not from fear. From adrenaline. From release. That night, as I sat surrounded by the neat stack of evidence I'd collected, I realized something that made my pulse race. She thought she had humiliated me beyond repair. She thought I'd slink away, broken, ashamed. But what she didn't know was that she'd already handed me the rope. And I was about to watch her hang herself with it. I didn't sleep much after that last phone call. Instead, I sat at my dining table with the binder of evidence open in front of me like a war map. Every page, every text, every Venmo receipt, every guilt-soaked demand, was a weapon I could use. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just reacting to my mom. I was strategizing against her. Step 1 was simple: cut the money flow. That meant closing every door she used to access me financially. I canceled the joint credit card she'd begged me to open for emergencies. I changed my banking passwords, set up two-factor authentication, and removed every trace of her from my accounts. The fallout was immediate. Mom ***, your card got declined when I tried to use it. Fix it. Asterisk. Me ***, not my problem. Asterisk. Mom ***, are you insane? I needed that for groceries. You think you can just cut me off? Asterisk. Me ***, yes. I can. Asterisk. Her fury exploded, but instead of fear, I felt exhilaration. I had finally pulled the plug on her lifeline. But that was just the beginning. Step 2, exposure. My mother thrived on her reputation, the self-styled martyr who sacrificed everything for her daughter. That image was her power. If people saw the truth, that power would crumble. So I started preparing a dossier. Screenshots of her texts. Records of the money she drained from me. The mocking group messages where my cousins called me the family ATM. I compiled it all, neatly organized and time-stamped. And then I thought bigger. I drafted an email address to every relative who had ever laughed at my expense, every family friend she bragged to, every person who thought she was some saintly mother. In it, I told the story, not the one she fed them, but the real one. The manipulation. The demands. The public humiliations. I attached the receipts, the screenshots, the proof. Cold, undeniable facts. I didn't send it yet. I saved it in my drafts, waiting for the right moment. Step 3, Legal backup. I spoke with an attorney, explaining how much money I'd funneled into her hands under pressure. He listened carefully, brows raised, and then said words that thrilled me to my core: "You may actually have grounds for financial abuse. Especially since you have evidence." Hearing that made everything real. This wasn't just me versus her. This was me, armed with truth and law, versus the empire of lies she'd built. But the final step, the real revenge, required patience. It required me to wait for her to overstep again, to make one more audacious move that would justify my strike. And, predictably, she didn't make me wait long. Because not 2 weeks after cutting her off, I received a call from HR at my company. "Rachel," my HR rep said cautiously, "we received a concerning letter from your mother." I felt the blood drain from my face. A letter. She had actually done it. She had reached into my professional life, the one sacred place she hadn't yet contaminated. That was her fatal mistake. Because if she wanted to drag this into my career, then she had just given me the green light to burn everything down. And when I struck back, I wouldn't just protect myself. I'd make sure she never had the power to humiliate me again. The HR call left me vibrating with fury, but also with clarity. My mother had crossed the final line. She had dragged her poison into the one place I had carved out for myself, the career I had bled for. And in doing so, she'd given me the perfect stage to end her reign. Her letter, according to HR, was a rambling mess, half praise, half delusion, dripping with entitlement. She claimed she was the reason for my success, that she had sacrificed everything to make me who I was, and that my company should show more appreciation by considering me for yet another raise. To HR's credit, they handled it professionally. They said they'd file it away and take no action against me, but they wanted to make sure I felt safe and supported. I assured them I did, but inside, my rage was molten. That was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. I went home, opened my laptop, and pulled up the dossier I'd been building. Evidence. Screenshots. Bank transfers. Venmo payments labeled groceries, and a rent, and a furniture, all from me to her. Texts where she threatened to withdraw love, where she demanded money as if it were rent for existing. The mocking group messages that turned my humiliation into a family joke. And then I added the final nail, a scan of the letter she'd sent to my HR department. Proof that she wasn't just financially abusive, she was actively sabotaging my career. I printed the entire file, bound it neatly, and slipped it into a manila folder labeled Family Record. Then I crafted the email. Subject line: The truth about Mom. The body was simple, almost surgical in its precision. Asterisk 4 months, I've been humiliated, blackmailed, and drained by someone who should have been my biggest supporter. My promotion, the one you all celebrated by mocking me with posters and cakes, was twisted into a payday for her. She demanded money not out of need, but out of greed. She made my career her weapon. And when that wasn't enough, she attempted to sabotage me at work. Asterisk. I attached the dossier. I didn't embellish, didn't dramatize. I let the evidence speak for itself. Then I hit send to every relative, every family friend, every person she'd ever manipulated into seeing her as a martyr. Within 24 hours, the fallout began. My phone buzzed with message after message. Aunt Linda *** Rachel. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Asterisk. Cousin Mark *** holy shit. I feel like an asshole. I had no idea she was forcing you. Asterisk. Uncle Dave *** this makes me sick. She always made herself the victim. Asterisk. The tide turned quickly. The same people who once laughed at me now looked at her with disgust. Her pedestal cracked. But I wasn't finished. I scheduled a meeting with my attorney. With all the evidence in hand, we drafted a formal demand letter to my mother: repay a portion of the money she had extracted under false pretenses, or face legal action for financial abuse. When the letter was delivered, she exploded. Mom asterisk asterisk, how dare you humiliate me like this? You've ruined my reputation. My own family won't look at me the same way. Do you hate me that much? Asterisk. Me asterisk asterisk, no. I don't hate you. I just finally see you for who you are. And now, so does everyone else. Asterisk. Her threats turned to begging. Her begging turned to silence. For the first time in my life, she had no power over me. And that silence? That silence was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. But the true victory was still to come, when the consequences of her downfall hit her full force. The silence didn't last long. My mother had always thrived on attention, and when the family stopped feeding her ego, she spiraled. I heard through my cousin Emily that she was calling relatives one by one, crying into the phone, insisting I had fabricated everything. But the problem was, I hadn't fabricated a single thing. Every screenshot, every bank transfer, every venomous message was real. And the more she tried to spin her lies, the more people turned away. At the next family gathering, the difference was night and day. I didn't even plan to go, but Emily begged me, "You need to see this for yourself." So I went. When I walked in, the room hushed. But not because of me. All eyes were on my mother, sitting stiffly in the corner, her face pale, her lips pressed into a thin, bitter line. No one was laughing with her anymore. No one was asking her for advice or praising her sacrifices. Instead, they were whispering about her, stealing glances like she was a ghost of someone they used to know. Aunt Linda, who had once piled food on her plate while mocking me, didn't even sit next to her. Cousin Mark avoided her eyes. Even Uncle Dave, her biggest defender, kept his distance. I almost felt pity. Almost. She tried to speak up once, clearing her throat. "I think everyone's overreacting. Rachel just." But she was cut off. Aunt Linda slammed her fork down and said flatly, "We saw the receipts, Sharon. Don't insult us." The room fell silent again. My mom's face went scarlet. She looked at me then, her eyes blazing with a mix of fury and desperation. But I didn't flinch. I ate my dinner, calm, unbothered, while she sat in the ruins of the empire she'd built on guilt and lies. But her public shaming was just the beginning. The attorney's letter had teeth. When she ignored it, we filed a formal claim. She had no way to explain the thousands of dollars I'd sent her, no proof that any of it had been for genuine family expenses. The text sealed her fate, proof she had coerced, threatened, and manipulated me. Her attorney tried to argue it was just family support, but the judge didn't buy it. Not when faced with her own words, asterisk, "If you don't help, don't come crying to me when you need me someday. Because I won't forget this." Asterisk. In the end, she was ordered to repay a significant chunk of what she'd taken. The humiliation of being dragged through court, of having her lies exposed in a legal record, was almost worse than the financial hit. When the judgment came down, she called me. Her voice was raw, broken, unrecognizable. "Rachel, please. Don't do this to me. I'm your mother." I listened in silence for a long moment, then said, "You did this to yourself." And I hung up. From that day forward, she was no longer the towering figure who haunted my life. She was just a woman stripped bare, exposed, disgraced, and powerless. For the first time, I breathed without chains around my lungs. For the first time, I was free. In the weeks after the judgment, I found myself relearning what silence sounded like. No more 6 a.m. phone calls demanding rent money. No more guilt-soaked texts about groceries, tuition, or family image. No more suffocating obligation every time my paycheck hit my account. Just silence. At first, it felt strange, like walking through an empty house after years of noise. I caught myself picking up my phone instinctively, bracing for her demands. But there was nothing. Only the stillness of freedom. The family dynamic shifted too. Slowly, cautiously, people began to reach out, cousins who once mocked me, aunts who once joined her chorus. They apologized, some fumbling, some tearful, all admitting they hadn't realized how far it had gone. I didn't forgive them easily, but I didn't carry their shame anymore either. It wasn't mine to carry. As for my mother, she faded into the background. I heard whispers now and then, how she complained about being betrayed, how she tried to spin herself as the victim. But no one bought it. Not anymore. The pedestal she'd built out of guilt and manipulation had crumbled, and she was left to sit in the wreckage alone. I never went back to her house. I never sent another dollar. And though she tried once or twice to call, I blocked her number. She had taken enough of me, my money, my joy, my pride. She wasn't getting another piece. One evening, months later, I sat on my balcony overlooking the Chicago skyline, a glass of wine in hand. The city hummed below me, alive and endless, and for the first time, I allowed myself to feel something I hadn't felt since the day of my promotion. Pride. Not the fragile pride she had mocked and twisted into shame, but real pride. Mine. Earned by me, owned by me, untouchable by anyone else. I thought back to her words the day I called with my promotion. Asterisk, don't forget who raised you. Asterisk. And I realized she had been right in a way she could never have imagined. Because she had raised me. She raised me to know what manipulation looks like. She raised me to recognize control when I see it. She raised me to understand that family isn't defined by blood, but by love, respect, and trust. Most of all, she raised me into someone strong enough to finally break free. So I whispered into the night air, not to her, but to myself. I'll never forget who raised me. But I'll also never forget who I became in spite of her. And with that, I took another sip of wine, leaned back in my chair, and let the city lights remind me that the future, my future, was finally, completely, and beautifully mine.